You know what I've realised over the years of my adulthood? In fact, I knew it early on, but certainly as I became an adult, that you've always got to be on your feet. You've always got to be on your toes. You always got to be on your guard around people. You just never really truly know what people are up to, or what people are capable of. You know, how many times do you find yourself in a situation where you just kind of feel like you have to defend yourself, or you have to, you know, sort of live up to someone's expectation, or there's some bullshit that they've decided that you're supposed to live up to, or something, or some version of yourself in their mind that doesn't exist, and so you're supposed to somehow work it out, or like you're somehow obligated to meet their delusional reality or something that about who you are or something. You know, if there's one thing that I know for absolute certain, it's that you just can't trust people, and just unfortunately a lot of people are very toxic. There are a hell of a lot of people out there that are extremely toxic, dysfunctional people, and I'm not saying that I'm not, you know, without my flaws, because I am. You know, I'm certainly not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, believe you me. I'm the first person to say it, to admit it. But, you know, when I compare myself to, I mean, that's a danger in and of itself, the whole comparison game. But, you know, when you start to, you know, when you look around you, when you compare yourself to other people, sometimes you think, actually, maybe I'm not as dysfunctional and as toxic as some people have made me out to be. That doesn't mean that I'm not. That doesn't mean that I shouldn't be pursuing, you know, ways in which to improve myself, or to make myself a more, you know, to be a healthier person in whatever ways, whether that's psychologically, physically, emotionally, spiritually, even if you want to go down that route. You know, there are some things that, look, we all carry our baggage. We're all going through our lives day to day, and you know, we're just trying to make the best of it, and it's hard enough anyway in and of itself. And as you get older and you just start to kind of realise that most people kind of suck, really. Most people are bought into the system. They don't see reality. They don't see. They just don't see that. They just don't see what's really there. They don't see what's really going on. They're too busy chasing after just temporary highs, really. You know, they're just that sort of, like I've said in my the last one I did of these kind of talks. I just think that there comes a point where you have to face up to the fact that you have to be on your guard around people all the time. I wish that wasn't the case, but it is. You know, it's just always the same. It doesn't matter what, you know. It's just a game of cat and mouse a lot of the time in this world. It's just a game of trying to figure out, you know, just how just the depths of someone's bullshit that you gotta work through or avoid to get to where you want to be, to get what you want out of this world. And there's perhaps no better example than that, than, you know, the world of employment. You know, just the sheer levels of you know, spitefulness, jealousy, you know, resentment, bitterness, you know, and just all the bullshit that comes along with that kind of the competitive environment of a lot of jobs and careers, you know, where people will literally do anything to get to the top. And you know, I just think now at 30, almost 35 years of age, I just don't really think I can really truly trust people ever again. And I never used to understand it when I was younger. It's like, oh, you know, I used to think when I used to meet people older than me, and it kind of seemed a bit more, I wouldn't necessarily say jaded, but just kind of less enthusiastic about life, let's say. And I never really got it. But now that I'm in my mid-30s, like, I can kind of, I get it. I get why it turns people like that, you know. That people have to become, not necessarily jaded, but just cautious, wise. You know, sometimes it pays you to be a little bit pessimistic about things, you know, about people, you know, just kind of, just to be on the safe side, you know. You've got to be precautious in this life, in many ways. Yeah, of course, you've got to take gambles and risks at times, and sometimes it's important for you to have to do certain things to get somewhere, to get something out of life. But I mean, to me, I don't know. I just think it's like, is it really worth it in the end? You know, is it completely worth it at the end of the day to go for all that? To, you know, to have to trudge through all that slime and debt, you know, it's like, you know, I don't know, maybe it is for some people. I guess it depends what you want, you know. The thing is, so many people have bought into this idea that, you know, that they've got to live a life, they've got to live this, you know, socially accepted life of, you know, getting a stable job, you know, having kids, buying a house, getting a car, working your ass off until you're 60 or something like that. And yes, I'm not saying that those things are necessarily bad, but it's the fact that so many people just buy into these things, and they have so many people seem to have no ability to think critically about anything, to think on a deeper level about things. It's like, I get that people are busy, and, you know, it's life gets in the way of sometimes when you're caught up in paying bills and, you know, worrying where the next bit of money's coming from, and, you know, there's this whole system of control and dominance over every aspect of your life, as it seems to be these days. You know, I get why people, and I get why people follow trends and bandwagons and, you know, the latest fashion things and, you know, the things that make people look good and look cool, and it's because people don't want to be sidelined. They don't want to be seen as, you know, the odd one out. They don't want to be separated from society. You know, they want to, because it's part of human nature to want to fit in, to want to be accepted and to be seen as a normal person. But I never really had that mindset. For me, it's like, yeah, it's just, you know, you are part of the system to a point, because most of us are. But I mean, where and when you can, you know, do what you can to separate yourself from it. At least psychologically, anyway. You know, just don't believe. Really, I personally just think that at a certain point in your life, after, you know, once the twilight years of your 20s start dwindling away, it's like you just realise that people are just full of shit. The government's full of shit. Your parents are full of shit. You yourself is full of shit at times. You know, how many times do we lie to ourselves in any given week? We keep lying, or even sometimes for decades, we lie to ourselves about people and probably more than anything else, ourselves. Really, you know, we live in this constant state of delusion. You know, we live in a mental world of what feels right, what feels comfortable, what feels correct, what feels good. Well, you know, your emotions, your feelings don't always, you know, they don't always match up to reality, you know. You know, of course, there are people out there that try to be better versions of themselves and try to do decent things as much as they can. And, you know, I respect that, because that takes effort. That's not easy. It's not easy to kind of step back away from the, you know, the accepted norm of life that most people live. It's hard to break away from it. It's hard to say things that either most people don't think or agree with, or have just never thought about before. You know, it's hard. It's, you know, if there's one reoccurring theme throughout history, it's that people that dare to speak up, those who dare to say anything that goes against the grain, you know, find themselves being gaslighted, you know, sidelined, scapegoated, you know, treated as some kind of lunatic or something. You know, and that's why we are where we are. That's partly why, you know, we're not hundreds of years further along in terms of our scientific knowledge, medicine, technology, you know, the way that people treat each other, because we've just allowed ourselves, allowed our societies and cultures and everything else to be just so held back by primitive human, you know, just very, yeah, primitive behaviours, you know, primitive thinking. You know, it doesn't surprise me that religions gained the popularity that they did so early on. You know, it's so easy to fall into that place of vulnerability in this life by. It's just easy. It's easy to get trapped. It's easy to get convinced and persuaded into things by, you know, people can be very convincing. It's easy to let comfort ruin your life. It's easier to believe what you want to believe rather than face up to what the actual facts are. You know, you sometimes hear, oh, people are decent. Most people are decent. Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm not really sure about that, to be honest. I mean, I don't think that's actually that true. You know, to me, the way I live my life is I question things, I challenge things, and I look at things and analyse them, and I try and see, you know, is there some truth to it, or isn't there? Or is it just complete bollocks? Is it just bullshit, or is it truth? You know, and the thing is as well, most people don't do the research. Most people don't really actively, you know, most people don't live mentally active, stimulated minds. Really, they live in this state of passivity. You know, they get taught things. They get taught what to think and how to feel, and, you know, how to behave in this situation, or how you're supposed to act in this situation. It's like, but, you know, very few people really ever challenge things, you know, and if they ever do, it's deemed to be, oh no, you can't say that, you can't talk about that, that's a bit controversial, that is, or that's taboo. We don't mention things like that. It's like, well, do you know what? Maybe we should. Have you ever thought about that? Maybe we should talk about it. Maybe we should discuss it, because that's the problem. That's why there's so many people like you in this world, because they just follow you like fucking sheep. You know, that's why I've got respect for people like Bill Hicks and George Carlin and Frank Zappa. You know, various artists and musicians, and just, you know, people throughout history, and people have challenged the status quo, people who have pushed the boundaries, you know, done something new, said something different to what was the accepted line of the day. You know, it's with whatever that was, whether that was in you know, the way society was run, you know, toward thoughts on philosophy, thoughts on science, medicine, religion, human nature, art, you know, technology. You know, I respect people that. This is why I'm not really. This is why I don't tend to follow that many. I don't, like on YouTube, for example, I don't tend to follow too many channels these days. Really, it's like you know, it depends what it is, but I kind of like coming across people that either randomly or just through other searches or whatever, that you just think, you know, this guy's got something about him, you know. And obviously, like, going back to what I was saying, you know, people that have challenged the political status quo of the day as well, you know. You know, what is morality? You know, what does it mean to be ethical? You know, what does it mean to be human? You know, people have break and challenge the rules. You know, people have questioned things, even though that they know that you know, they're putting themselves at risk for doing it. You know, it's like you can you can respect people like that because they've got something to lose from it. But you know, when people haven't got anything to lose, it's like you think to yourself, you know, it's like, why are you towing the line? So what is it? Why are you just playing along? And that's one thing I've never really understood about England. Really, it's like we've had decades and decades of shambles and corrupt governments, you know, and just failure after failure after failure, and nobody ever seems to do anything. Nobody ever seems to stand up and do anything about it. It's just, I just never really understood it. It's like, why don't people collectivize and start doing things? Like, you know, like this whole movement, this whole political, you know, movement with reform and everything that's gone on and has been for a while now. You know, that's all good and well, but that should have been happening 20, 30 years ago. You know, we could have avoided so many disastrous policies if enough people would have just stood up and been counted for something and made their voices heard enough. If the numbers would have been there, things would have changed, things would have happened. But it just seems like nobody. It just seems that it just feels like a lot of the time people just don't care. That's the way I see the world. People don't care. They're out for themselves. I'm all right, Jack kind of mentality. And everybody else can go fuck themselves kind of thing. That's essentially how that's how it seems to me, at least. People are just stuck in their little bubbles, you know, their little, you know, cushy little manicured lives that they think that they think that they're free, and they think that they've got that they've made it somehow in life, you know, because they've got the job of their dreams, or they've got the woman that they were after, or they've managed to earn a certain amount of money, or, you know, saved so much, or they've got the car that they always wanted, and so, you know, as if these things were somehow, you know, universal, you know, achievements or something. It's like, no, it's just materialistic, really. It's like, and as far as human connections are concerned, the way I see it a lot of the time with people is that people are playing games. That's the reality of most people, that they're playing games they've got a plan, they've got an agenda, and they're sticking to it because they're trying to get somewhere. And it's screw you, I'll step all over you if I have to get to that point. That's what this world is set up for. It's set up for those types of people. It's not set up for people who are against that kind of system, that model, with this capitalist dog-eat-dog world, you know, this survival of the fittest type bullshit that you know, it's like we're you know living out in the jungles or the forests of a million years ago or something. It's like I've just always struggled with human nature. I've always had problems with it. I've always had problems with. For me, like a lot of the time when I face people face to face, I just kind of sort of instinctively kind of get a pretty rough idea of what that person might be like within the first few minutes, really. And you know, I don't know. I just that's for me. That's it. It's. I'm not stubborn as such, but I just go on my instincts. I go on my intuition, and based on prior experience with people. You know, it's like I've met a lot of people in life. You know, in various different contexts, and you know, there are only so many different types of personalities. There's only so many types of human behaviour. There's only so many subtleties and social cues and body language before you reach a point where you can say you've pretty much got more or less a good grasp of what those things are and understand them to a point. And you know, I try to keep an open mind. I try to not be overly pessimistic. You know, I try to give people a shot, a chance, but you just got to be so careful with people. You don't, people can come across as the most friendly, kind, welcoming, warm individuals, and they can be the most backstabbing, two-faced, just narcissistic, self-absorbed tossers you'll ever know. But then you can also meet people that come across as those very things and actually might not be that bad. Might not be that bad of a person in some ways. So it's complicated. But for the most part, it kind of look. People are complicated. I get that. People's lives are complicated in so many different ways. And there are a lot of reasons why people become the way that they are over many decades. And I get why some people become kind of nasty and go into self-preservation mode after a period of time, and kind of are on the attack all the time and put the barriers up kind of thing with people. I get it. I've done it myself, so obviously I understand it. But there's a difference between doing that and just being an outright, absolute, just an asshole, really. Just generally an unpleasant fuck. There's a big difference between those things. Just because you've had a hard life, a difficult life, doesn't give you a right to be an absolute. It doesn't mean doesn't give you justification to go and break the law or commit murder or do something horrendous or. It's like most people have had hard lives in various different ways, different levels of hardship and troubles and, grief and stress and problems. That's the nature of the world that we live in, unfortunately. But that's partly because of the way we are, partly because we made it that way. We've made things the way they are, and it's the fact that people don't challenge them, that here we are decades later, living in more or less the same society as we lived in 100 years ago. Things really haven't changed that much in many respects. People are still as they were. We need like some kind of collective spiritual awakening. I don't really know what you would define it as, but we need some kind of we need an awakening. We need some epiphany or something. We need something like a wake-up call. And I thought COVID might have been it, but clearly I was wrong. We need something to come along in the coming years, decades, that really transforms and shapes. It really dramatically changes things for everyone. It makes things better. It makes the world a better place. It makes people want to be better. And I think we have to do away. It's yes, it's all good and well having a system built on meritocracy, and it's better than purely based on the lines of race or colour. Nobody would say that that's the right way to go, obviously, but I don't know. It's you need to have a system that's fair, but it's all good. The thing is, the system's set up for the smartest, best, talented, most intelligent, most competent people. That's the way out of it. And everybody else is basically just left behind and basically told, you're fucking useless, you're this, you're that, you've got no chance, blah, blah, blah. So good luck working it out on your own, And so you just get the shit end of the stick, you get the crap straw, and I don't think that's really the right way that we should live our lives. I think a lot of people out there that have got potential but they need to be guided. They need some direction, they need some support, they need help to become more confident people, to deal with their self-esteem issues. I'm not just talking about myself. I'm talking about a whole. There's a worldwide probably community of people out there that have got low self-esteem, problems with the self-image, and might not be particularly intelligent, or clued up about the world in many ways. People that are not stupid, but they're certainly not scholars as well. And there's really not much for those people apart from dead-end jobs, night classes or adult education. What the fuck's that going to do, really? I think the problem is as well is that society is set up for basically, really for those 18 to 25-year-olds, I would say, unless it's some major career where you needed for experience or whatever. But really, it's really there for young people. I'd say people under 35. That's basically the world of capitalism's really there for young people. It's there for people that have still got that energy in them to want to become something because they've been told that they have to become something. They need to be someone. They have to put their ego and image on a pedestal kind of thing for themselves and others. And that's the world we live in. We live in an unjust, unfair society where it breeds unpleasantness. That's all I can say about it, really. That's why so many people it's not the whole picture. It's also down to people's personalities. Probably their certain learned behaviours and the environment they grew up in, and obviously the society and culture that's played a massive part in who they've become. Especially during obviously the formative years. So it's the society. It's all rigged, essentially. It's all rigged. It's there. The world is your oyster if you've got the right attributes, if you've got the right level of cunningness or intellect or willingness to shit all over other people to get to a point where you can see that you've made it, you're successful in life. And there's just sometimes where I just wake up and I just feel to myself, it's like when I have job interviews and things like this, and you're just you're just kind of going around you kind of just go around it's like being on a hamster wheel kind of thing. It's like you're just going around going through the emotions kind of thing. You're going through you know what the game is. You know what's excuse me. You know what you're supposed to say. And I just always kind of felt that I never really belonged to that. That's the truth of it. I never felt like I fit into this kind of mould of the world society, especially in the West anyway. I can't speak for the rest of the world, or certainly, this whole world of kind of like this corporate-like structure of employment and things like this, and even at school, I never really felt like I fitted in at school either. Like I was just always against everything. I was just always kind of fighting against it. It's like, I don't want to belong to this. I don't really feel like I belong to it. I don't want to belong to it. This is not me. This is not. But we live in a society where you're essentially either. You've not really got many options, have you? You either play into the game, or play the game in as much as trying to work out how you can, find a leak in the system kind of thing, loophole, or you essentially go completely against the grain, become a complete outcast and, kind of champion of eccentrics or something like that, There aren't many of them in this world, and there haven't been that many of them throughout history. Not that I'm anything like that. I'm just saying that you need people like that, though. That's the thing. That's how you get change. You need people to come along with fresh ideas, and that's the problem. We haven't had any real fresh ideas in many ways in the West for decades. Think about the way that arts, I use this word loosely, progressed over the last few decades. I mean, it's hardly really progressed at all. Movies, even art in many ways. It's like, where's the art? Where's the music? Where's the fashion? Where's the cultural movements that stand up for something, that represent something these days, apart from bloody identity politics and woke bullshit, which doesn't really stand for anything, doesn't mean anything. It's just another arm of the government, really. It's just a political movement, or at least it became sabotaged, and that's what it ended up as. So we live in a completely, I think personally, an outdated system. It doesn't work anymore. It's the way things are going with AI and automation and everything like that's ramping up. That system won't be out. It's already outdated anyway. It's been outdated for at least 15, 20 years. And just as technology moves on, they'll be completely outdated. There won't even really be a need for a capitalist, an excessively mass-produced society necessarily anymore. It's like I hope that we're in the coming decades, hopefully by the end of the century, that we might be starting to turn back in a way. Maybe that's progress in an ironic kind of twist of humanity in some way. But maybe it is. Maybe that is the solution. Maybe that is the answer to in many ways the issues of human behaviour in certain. Maybe we need to go back in certain ways, but with a modern twist to it. I think we would be better off, kind of going back to some kind of. We need to have communities again. That's what we need. But we also need to have. We need to do away with, like nutcase kind of sects and tribal kind of mentalities, that kind of thing. I think we need to collectively come together in some way and try to evolve in some capacity, And that doesn't mean that we all think the same, but we can all come together. Nobody would, I certainly wouldn't advocate for some kind of, religious like cult or anything like that. But I think maybe part of the solution to the issues, the problems that plague society in many ways, is to go back to communities, is to build communities again. You know, that's what we need. We need to get away from this hyper. You know, look, the reality is we need people. People do need people. That's just a fact of life. So you can't get away from that until technology completely takes off in a few decades. But until then, or a century or two, whatever, you know, until that point, we need to kind of we need some collective empowerment. That's what we need. We need to become better people. We need to become a better species. And that doesn't mean that you know, this is where liberalism's gone wrong. It's this premise that you know, we should all be the same kind of thing. We're all one under one roof kind of thing. You know, none of us. And that was probably part of it at one, you know, initially, but then it got sabotaged and got, you know, dumbed down and corrupted by little subgroups of politically motivated people that wanted to turn it into a kind of cultural communist revolution. Is essentially what it's become. That's not the way forward. It's not. We need to find out. We need to work out how we can get along better, if we can at all. And I'm not saying we can, but you know, there must be some way that we can live better lives. You know, where we can live more honest, open, just nicer versions of ourselves. You know, instead of this, you know, repressed, you know, kind of overly reserved nature that we often, you know, this duality of ourselves, where we're one person when we go outside the door, and we're a different person when we're inside the house. You know, I don't like living like that. I don't like living in a world where you feel like you have to have different personality types to be accepted, to fit in. You know, to be deemed like, you're okay, you're one of us, you're on the. It's like we need to find common ground. We need to find. So I think we need some kind of like spiritual movement of some kind. I don't know what form that would take, but I think that might be the way forward. You know, some kind. Maybe we need to kind of almost have a kind of like commune-like society, maybe in certain way. I don't know exactly how it would all pan out. I don't know how you would get to that point, but I just think that, you know, the days of everyone. The thing is that we live in such a self-centered world now. You know, where everyone's out for themselves. You know, everyone's chasing down some opportunity here and there, and there's like 50, 100 people chasing after the same thing. So there's this excessive competitive capitalist nature to the world. And yeah, I'm not saying that competition is a bad thing. I'm not saying that you know, competition can be good, but it needs to be healthy, it needs to be functional. And I don't think that it isn't that anymore. I think at one time it used to be, or at least more than it is now. You know, now it's just people just treading all over anyone and anything to get where they want, at the expense of other people, the expense of nature, resources, animals, vulnerable people. People just don't care anymore. A lot of the time, people just don't. They're so absorbed into this digital world, you know, of TikTok, Instagram, you know, Facebook, you know, all the various apps you can get, all the. Just this absolute flood of information, you know, that people, I don't think people were really ready for, and that's only going to get, that's only going to expand as the years go on. It's the internet. I assume it's going to evolve into something bigger and even more immersive as time goes on. So, yeah, I think, you know, we with the whatever happens with the internet, whatever happens with technology. We need to use it for communities. We need to build communities. That's what I think we need to work towards. We need to have a kind of like a real life version of, no, something, I don't know, maybe something kind of like Reddit in a way, but without all the drama and, you know, argumentative bullshit that goes on. But, you know, we need, you know, maybe we need some kind of like, almost like a kind of Buddhist, meditative, like kind of lifestyle or something. I don't know. We need something that helps us to reconnect with nature and the universe, really. You know, I think that's, you know, I'm not saying we're all always going to get along, but we see what's happened is we've lost the principles of respect, self-respect, of discipline, of having morals and values, and that we all more or less agreed on, you know, for the most part. And now we live in societies where everything's been divided, everyone's at each other's throats. You know, it's just a whirlwind of whatever the fuck. Like, there's no real standard to anything anymore, and just a general sense of apathy. That's how I sort of interpret the real world and then the online world. There's just so much apathy out there. No one seems to have any energy anymore. No one seems to have any. Very few people really have any real passion or energy or uniqueness to them. You know, there's only really a handful of people out there with real visions of how the world could be a better place for a lot of people. And of course, you know, there's always that aspect of, you know, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, or whatever they say, however it goes. So, you know, of course, you always have to be wary of, you know, men dressed in gowns and, you know, men coming forth with promises of this and this, and whether that's in religion, philosophy, you know, political world, economically speaking, whatever. You know, we've all seen where large groups of, it's like, my point is, I don't know how you deal with the ills of human nature if you can ever really truly do it. Maybe you can't. Maybe it's impossible, you know? Or maybe it will boil down to essentially biotech that will enable us to become a more peaceful, less war-seeking species, where we all essentially have to get along because we're so dangerous and so on the cusp of incredibly powerful technologies and energy resources and power of taking real leaps forward in harnessing the energy of our own planet and probably our own solar system. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of years, really. But I mean, in our own lifetimes, in my lifetime at least, I wish that we don't all have to agree on everything. We don't all have to think, and I don't want everyone to think the same thing. That'd be a horrible world to live in. We all know what happens when everyone does that. So you're always going to get outsiders. You're always going to get people that challenge things, and that's good. That's a good thing, because that's how you get change. That's how you get new ideas. Fresh perspectives on things, and sometimes you can see the flaws in your own arguments and the flaws in a system. The problems that maybe you didn't really see yourself. You don't really see them because you're involved in something. So outsiders are massively important people. But at the same, I just think we need to have some kind of drive towards more community building in the world, across the world, really. It's like, I think that might be part of the way to live better lives, happier lives, more fulfilling lives in many ways. Especially as resources start to deplete, on our own planet at least, and things start to get more complicated and difficult. So it may very well just be a kind of a natural process anyway that we start kind of getting away from the excesses of, you know, capitalism gone run wild kind of thing. But, or maybe, you know, maybe it won't. Maybe I mean, it doesn't really matter. You know, it's all hypothetical. But who knows what's going to happen 50 years, 100 years from now? You know, it very well could be that more or less, either we're in the same position more or less as we are now, or we just kind of, it just gets worse and worse and worse. You know, hopefully it's neither of those two things. But all I know is that in the present days that societies have become excessively toxic and dysfunctional, and because of that, the way that the framework of society works is it makes people, you know, and honestly just the nature of human nature in and of itself causes problems. It's not, you know, we live in an imperfect world. We live around imperfect people with their own ambitions, their own desires, their own, you know, wants and needs on various levels. But what we lack more than anything is empathy. We lack compassion. We lack the ability to care, to listen, to want to listen. We're too hyper-focused on ourselves and hearing our own voices and hearing our, you know, what we want to hear. And that applies to me as well. You know, somewhat to some extent, I suppose, kind of partly why I make videos. It's because, you know, I think I've got something to say, but, you know, maybe I could argue there's a little bit of an ego aspect to it in a way, maybe. But I don't do it purely out of that. I do it because I want to say something. I think I've got something valid to say, and although a lot of people might disagree with me, you know, I want to say it anyway, because something might. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to change the world. You know, I'm not going to be able to contribute in any way to, you know, influencing powerful people, or, you know, kind of causing a shift in society or anything. Of course not. That's a ridiculous thought, you know, and I don't think that. But, you know, I do think that there are other people out there that might agree, and some might even like some things that I've had to say, and some people won't. They'll be fiercely in disagreement. But I welcome that. You know, it's not. I don't care whether people disagree with me. It's just that we live in a society where, and of course I'm generalising. Of course, there's always exceptions to things. But my point is that, you know, we live in a world where, for the most part, I mean, you only have to spend, you know, 5 minutes on any controversial post on Reddit or Facebook or wherever, TikTok, whatever, wherever you go, or forums or whatever, and you just see the how quickly things spiral into kind of chaos and insults and petty remarks and passive aggressive behaviour, and I just kind of I stepped back from that a few years ago. I didn't really want to be involved in any of that anymore. Really, it's like I don't mind adding the odd comment on video on YouTube, or you know, comment on a post on Facebook from time to time, but really I don't really bother anymore, because it just you know, before you know it, someone's insulting you or disagreeing with you or something takes something far too personal than you ever intended something to be, and it just becomes, like I said at the beginning, it's just that, you know, there's so much toxicity out there. It's just unbelievable. It's fucking believable on all levels as well, like on the very top echelons of society, you know, to the bottom rungs of the ladder. You know, it's fucking everywhere. The games people play, the manipulation, you know, the strategic, planning that that people think that you don't know what people think you're so stupid that you don't see it. It's like, I do see it. I'm just not telling you that I see it. I see it. I know what you're doing. I know why you're talking to me in that tone. I know why you're saying, being careful with the use of your language. I know why you're, trying to bamboozle me with statistics or figure, with certain knowledge or something, because you think I'm too bloody stupid to understand it, or you think I'm too, up my own ass or something, or you think I'm too stubborn or too ignorant or too uneducated or too this or too that. It's like, I'm not perfect, but it's like, I'm very intuitive. And I know when someone's bullshitting me. I know when someone's up to something. I know when people are playing games. I know what human nature's like, because I've dealt with it time and time and time again. And you just, like I said, you just got to be. You've got to be ready to get the ammunition out sometimes. I hate saying that. I'm not one that, I don't like arguing with anybody. I don't like being involved in my own drama, let alone anybody else's. That it's got nothing to do with me. I couldn't give a fuck, really. It's like if someone shows an interest in my life, someone wants to understand me and wants to try and genuinely be a friend, and I absolutely welcome that, and I'm more than willing to listen. But if it's all one-sided or it's lopsided, it's just not worth my effort. And and I just, more and more as I'm getting older, I'm just realising that's the thing that I come back to again and again and again. It's not worth it. It's just not fucking worth it. It's not worth the time, the energy, the stress. And a lot of the times, it's not even worth the fucking money. In terms of your certain jobs, careers, it's like the amount of the demands of certain things and when you think about it in the long term, it's like, is it worth it anyway? Is it worth it when you're 60, 70, 80 years old? I mean, if you're lucky to live that long, or unlucky enough to live that long, that's the way I see the world now. And pretty much anything I ever do now, I'm just like, is it worth my time? Is it worth my energy? And if it's not, is it worth my attention, focus, sacrifice potentially? And if I deem it's not, then I just won't go with it. And that's what I'm doing as I get older. I'm getting more confident in saying no to things, and saying, nah, fuck it, screw it. I'm not doing it. I'm not interested. I don't give a fuck what you think. You can have your little bullshit tantrums if you want. I do not give a shit. Because other people do it. Other people say no to you, to your offers and things that you might want to do or whatever. So why don't you have a right to do it? If you're not comfortable doing something or you don't want to do it, that's up to you. It's your life. No one's walking your shoes. Nobody's inside you, living the life that you have, dealing with the problems that you deal with on a daily basis. So no one's got any fucking right to tell you what you should be doing or shouldn't be doing. Why don't you go down this avenue? Why don't you fuck off and leave me alone? Stop pestering me and trying to control me, telling me what to do all the time. Let me fucking decide. I'll decide. It's my life. I'll decide what I want to do, where I want to go, who I want to be around, who I don't, what job I want, what job I don't want. I'll fucking decide those rules. Nobody else. I'm the one living this life, not you. You see, this is why I don't like. I just can't stand people, really. For the vast majority of people, I don't want them in my life. I don't want to fucking be around you. I don't want to hear you. I don't care what you've got to say, really, for the most part. I just don't give a fuck anymore. I don't want to know you. I don't want to fucking spend any time listening to you fucking drivel small talk. I couldn't give a fuck. Good for you. You've done this. You've done that. You've been here. You've been there. You've achieved this. Ah, fucking great. Wonderful. Congratulations. Brilliant. Good for you. So, and I've got a PhD. Well, I've travelled the world 3 times. Well, I've earned, I've earned, I have a multi-million-pound business. I've slept with 20 women. It's like, fucking gives a shit. So what? You're gonna die one day. I don't fucking care. I'm just tired of feeling like I always have to put on you can never ever be yourself around most people, apart from your own siblings. You just always have to be something for someone. Always have to fucking just people just trying to just squeeze the fucking life out of you, bit by bit by bit. Break you down, break your soul. And then you wonder why you go fucking mental and snap at people after a while. I'm not an aggressive person, but there are times where people are just so infuriating, so mind-numbingly annoying and fucking tedious that you just think, could someone just bring a fucking machine gun in here and just be done with this fucking person? Seriously. I don't mean literally, but I'm just fucking tired of people. I'm tired of people. Tired of people's silly little games that they think are so smart. Nobody's going to work this out. No one's going to work out what I'm up to. See through in the first 5-10 minutes. Just because I don't have a fucking, a bloody doctorate or something. I have a fucking, £1 trillion business or something, because I'm not some bloody tech icon or some, genius or something. It doesn't mean I'm fucking stupid. And it's, and women are fucking no better than men. In fact, in some ways they're probably worse, because they've been taught to be manipulative, been taught to be cunning and convincing, and the different types of manipulation that you can use. With women, it's more about trying to find your weak spot, trying to find something, trying to sort of ebb away you a little bit, just a little bit at a time, whereas men, they can just be full force, So men and women, they're really just as bad as each other in many, many ways when it comes to the negative sides of human nature. Because they're taught that the world is theirs. We live in a women's world now. The men's world is gone. It's like, well, if you want to keep believing that delusion, that's up to you, but reality says otherwise. Now, I'm all for things like equality and a fairer, juster, better society. But let's be fucking real. That nature is what it is. Unfortunately, some people are just more just naturally skilled or talented, or have got more potential than other people. That's just the way it works. Some people are better looking, some people are more handsome than other people. It's all in the upbringing, it's all in the education, in your later childhood, your teenage years, and if you haven't got it, then you're fucked. If you haven't got your shit together mentally by the time you say 14, 15, you're fucking over, your life's finished, it's over, it's done with, for the most part. You might have some lucky breaks from time to time, but you're never going to be as successful as other people. Never. For the most part, yes, of course, there are always exceptional cases of people that come from nothing and do very well, but they're very, very, very far and few between. And even then, those people have often had the right people around them, and were just fortunate of certain things kind of fell on the laps or whatever. So it's not always just a case of, well, that person's successful. Because they fucking had money. They came from money. They were surrounded by positive, happy, happy-go-lucky, I can be anything, I can do anything, I can get anything types of people. And that's great, and you can think that when you're surrounded by that. When you grow up in a functional, happy, well-to-do, well-financed household with both parents that have got good careers or both parents that are smart, so you're already at an advantage. Even then, you're already like 10 steps ahead of people. If you haven't got that, you're fucked for the most part. Because you'll never get over the problems of your feelings of inadequacy, your insecurities, your lack of education, your lack of intelligence, your lack of looks. You'll never ever get over it. It'll be with you for the rest of your life, and it'll be a curse on you. You're fucked by the time you're in your mid to late teens, 20s. If you haven't got your shit together, if you don't know what you want to do by the time you say 7 or 8, that's it. And no one gives a fuck either, no one cares. You're on your own. Oh, you didn't get a job, did you? You didn't get a career? Well, tough luck, isn't it? Tough shit. That's the mentality of most people. Yeah, well, maybe you did it to yourself, maybe you brought it on yourself, maybe it's your own fault. Nobody ever really delves into things on a deeper level. They just want to be right about everything, all the time. I'm right, you're wrong. Well, how about it's a bit more complicated that, and maybe we should, we should both listen to each other, maybe, because we've both got valid points. Not just that you're right, I'm wrong, or I'm right, you're wrong. Maybe it's not as simple as that. Maybe it's not that black and white. Maybe it's more nuanced, like life tends to be. But nah, your fucking ego matters more than anything else. Doesn't it? You've got to be right. You've got to have the last say. You've got to have the last laugh. I fucking hate people. I despise people most of the time. I can't stand people. That's why I prefer just being on my own with my dogs. You don't have to deal with people's bullshit all the time, people's lies, deception, delusions, drama, you fucking name it. I've seen it, I've dealt with it, I've been involved in it. I don't want any more of it. I haven't got it in me to deal with it anymore. If those in their late teens, early mid 20s, whatever, want to have that kind of lifestyle, good for you, because you're young. You've got it in you. You've got more resilience at that age. You're still naive. You're still living in a dream world. You're still living in a fucking little bubble. By the time you're 30, if you've got anything about you, if you've matured and got some wisdom in you, you'll separate yourself from it, because it doesn't do you any good in the end. I'm sorry to sound all whingy and complaining and bitchy, but these are meant to be real and raw and honest, and that's what I try to be. Because sometimes society doesn't let you be like that. That's why I don't really often want to be a part of it anymore. I want to work, but I don't want to work under the conditions and the strict, regimented, army-like kind of, you've got to follow the rules. You've got to fit into this box. You've got to do this all the time. Otherwise, you're not going to fit in here. As if meritocracy is actually genuinely the real thing that really matters in this world most of the time. It's not about that. How many people are in careers and jobs that are really incompetent now? No good. I don't even want to be there. They just got into it because the money was good, or there's somebody that works there, nepotism, or there's somebody hired them because of their looks or whatever and was hoping to get them laid at some point. Best thing you can do in this world is to trust as few fucking people as you can. Sorry for all the profanity, but be on your fucking guard in this world. Be on your guard. Because you fucking never know people. You never know them. Even your own family can turn against it. Even people you've known for decades can turn against you at some point over the most trivial of things, the most insignificant, meaningless shit. Because you had an argument with them, they didn't win the argument, as if it was some kind of competition or something. You're better off being on your own most of the time in this world. As far as what I've learned is that, mingle with people whenever you, I guess, if you think they're trustworthy, if you think they're decent enough people. But just never, ever, ever let the thought that you can trust people cement in your mind. Never do that. Always be on your guard. Always be prepared to put people in the place. Always be prepared to defend yourself when necessary. Because it's a game to most people. It's predator versus prey. That's human nature. I wish it wasn't that way, but that is how it is. You know it and I know it. That applies to relationships. That applies to the world of employment. That applies to friendships, unfortunately. You know, there's so many taboo areas that people never talk about, never ever very few people really truly want to talk about or share with the close. Because the thing is, there's so many social taboos, there's so many psychological taboos that people never talk about, and because, you know, the thing is, if the reality of if the real genuine truths of everything in this world were revealed on the table, you know, maybe the world would be a better place. I don't know. Maybe it would. Because at least then we'd see everything raw right there on the table, you know? That's why people are so fucked up. Because it's all in our heads all the time. You're not allowed to be real. You're not allowed to tell you the real truths and real feelings about people and things and places and situations. You've got to keep it in your head. You've got to keep it to yourself. Because if you don't, there are consequences. And sometimes I just want to say, well, fuck your rules. Fuck your consequences. Fuck your control. Mind control. Fuck it all. That's the only way we move forward as a species, when we start being fucking honest with each other for once. Stop living these bullshit lies of lives that we think are nice and decent and good lives. They're not. That's why so many people hate each other's guts, because they can't tell each other what they really think and feel. That's why people are how they are. So let's do away with all the social stigmas and bullshit. Unspoken truths, uncomfortable facts about ourselves and about nature and everything else. Let's have it out there, out in the open. Let's put it out in the public square. Maybe at that point, we might fucking, for once in our bloody goddamn history, progress as a species and get somewhere that ends up with us being in a much better place than we are now. We have been for the last few centuries. Because otherwise, we're completely fucked.